Hi everyone, my name is Zach, and today I'll be demonstrating an easy and efficient way in which you can approach English composition questions. Through contextual clues from the prompt, as well as the use of a simple story structure, you can easily come up with the outline of your composition fast, and thus have more time to devote to the writing of your composition. Let me demonstrate with this simple composition question. So we have to write a composition of at least 150 words about a mistake. And we also have these three pictures, namely that of a soccer ball, a sign prohibiting outdoor activities, and a silhouette of two people talking. We also have to ensure that our composition is based on one or more of these pictures, and also that we answer these 2 points, being what was the mistake and why it was a mistake. Before we start to formulate our story, we can actually break this prompt down into simpler, smaller pieces. Firstly, we can consider the keyword that was given to us, a mistake. So our story has to revolve around someone, maybe the protagonist, making a mistake. We also have to incorporate into our story what the mistake was and, more importantly, why it was a mistake. So let's just put these thoughts aside for now and move on to the pictures. From the 3 pictures that we were given, we can actually derive some contextual clues from them in order to help us in the creation of our final story. So for example, in the first picture of the soccer ball, it implies that the mistake in question perhaps involves soccer or a sport of some kind. In the second picture, which is of the sign prohibiting outdoor activities, it also suggests that there's some sort of rule to be broken. And in the third picture of the silhouette of two people talking, it implies that at some point of time in the story, there's a decision to be made, and this decision was probably a mistake as well. So, from these pictures, in addition to the previous clues we got, we can draw some inspiration from them to help us come up with the general strokes of our story. And then from here, we can start to flesh out our story in more detail using a simple framework called the plot pyramid. This is basically the fundamental structure of most, if not all, stories, and we can use this to help us come up with our own. Let me first go into detail about what this structure consists of exactly. All stories first start with the exposition, or the introduction. This can be the first few scenes of a movie, or the first few chapters of a book, and essentially, the setting, time, and main characters are first introduced to the reader. After that, we have the rising action, or the lead up to the main climax or conflict of the story. This then turns into the climax, or the main emotional focal point of the story, where the main character faces the most drama and tension. This is then followed by the falling action, which is essentially the lead-in to the resolution of the climax. And then finally, the denouement, or the conclusion of the story, where the main conflict is finally resolved and the protagonist comes out of this whole experience a changed person. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but essentially different from where they first started out from. Okay, that all sounds very theoretical, so let's put it into practice. Let's see how we can use this structure to help us answer our composition question. So maybe at first, we can have the protagonist playing soccer with their group of friends. They then decide to play near a residential area, in spite of it having a sign prohibiting outdoor activities. The protagonist accidentally kicks the ball into the window of a nearby house, breaking it, and their friends encourage them to run away from the scene of the crime. But after a moment of soul-searching and consideration, they decide to go to the owner of the house and confess to their mistakes. The owner of the house is understandably angry but eventually lets the protagonist off the hook. And in the conclusion of the story, the protagonist perhaps becomes a more responsible person, and they also reflect on how their friends had not supported them in doing the right thing. This is by all means not the best nor most definitive story you could have come up with when answering this question, but demonstrably, by following this plot pyramid, you can come up with the general meat and bones of the story pretty quickly, which you can then fine-tune to your own liking. So after this whole process, we should also remember to refine the nitty-gritty details of the story just for the sake of logical consistency. For example, we should make sure that we have thought of the setting, the time, and the characters of our story. We should also make sure that our story has answered the 2 guiding prompts given to us by the question, namely, what the mistake was and why it was a mistake. Once we have settled all of these final details, then we can finally start to begin writing our composition. Through this simple process of reading the question, using the plot pyramid, and then filling in the remaining gaps, we can efficiently answer any composition questions in a quick and easy manner. Thank you for listening to this video, and I hope you found this helpful. All the best in your exams.